The future you're hoping for is a memory, you just haven't experienced it yet. Every failed attempt to change your life started from the exact same mistake, trying to get something you believed you didn't already have. This script breaks down a psychological and metaphysical framework for creating reality, one that operates on the radical premise that your desired future must be experienced as a present fact. And the reason your goals feel so distant is because you're treating them as a destination. You should be treating them as your starting point. This idea comes from the early 20th century mystic Neville Goddard. His central claim is simple and unsettling. Consciousness is the one and only reality. Everything you see, touch, and experience in the physical world is a delayed projection of what you are conscious of being. The world is a mirror. It can only reflect the face you are making at it right now. If you want it to smile, you have to offer the smile first while looking at a frowning reflection. This is difficult. It requires a discipline of the mind that runs contrary to all of our conditioning. We are taught to react to the world. We see the bank balance and feel poor. We see the diagnosis and feel sick. We experience the rejection and feel unwanted. Neville's teaching inverts this. He argued that we are creating the bank balance, the diagnosis, and the rejection through our dominant states of consciousness. The outer world is simply old news. It's the physical residue of previous inner conversations and assumptions. This is where the model departs from simple positive thinking. The mechanism is far more precise. It operates on a specific, and often misunderstood, law of consciousness. Getting this law wrong guarantees failure. The core principle is called the law of assumption. It states that an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. You achieve a desire by assuming the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. This is the crucial distinction. You do not focus on the desire. You focus from the desire. There is a universe of difference between thinking of what you want and thinking from it. Thinking of a goal places it in the future, separate from you. It reinforces the fact that you do not currently have it. This creates a state of wanting, of longing. The feeling of want is a powerful creative force. It flawlessly creates more situations where you continue to want. Thinking from the goal means you mentally inhabit the reality where the desire is already yours. It is a finished, historical event. You are looking back on it with satisfaction. This creates a feeling of being, of having, of fulfillment. That feeling is the true creative force. It begins to reorganize your physical reality to match your new inner state. But how can you genuinely feel wealthy when your bank account says otherwise? Your senses are reporting a completely different reality. The rational mind detects this conflict instantly. The key is to bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the power that actually shapes your world. That power is the subconscious mind. Your subconscious is the builder. It directs your autonomic bodily functions, stores your deepest beliefs, and ultimately constructs your reality. The subconscious has its own language. It is unimpressed by logical arguments, willpower, or forceful declarations. It speaks in the language of feeling, of sensory experience. This is why a specific technique is required to impress it with a new idea. Neville called it the state akin to sleep, or SATS. This is the drowsy hypnagogic state you enter just before falling asleep, or just after waking up. In this relaxed state, your conscious mind's guard is down. Your sensory inputs from the outside world are muted. The barrier between the conscious and subconscious is at its thinnest. This is the workshop. Here, you construct a short, vivid sensory scene. This scene must meet one critical condition. It must imply that your wish is already fulfilled. The scene is never the moment of getting the thing. It is always a moment after. You do not visualize yourself winning the lottery. You visualize a friend saying, "I can't believe your luck," and you feel the genuine thrill of their comment. You do not imagine getting the job offer. You imagine yourself sitting at your new desk a month later, smelling the coffee and feeling the solid wood beneath your hands. The scene must be short, a single moment looped over and over. You feel the handshake. You hear the specific words. You see the detail on the wedding ring on your finger. You engage as many imaginary senses as possible until the scene takes on the tones of reality. You repeat this loop until it feels real, until you are filled with a feeling of satisfaction. You then fall asleep in that state. But what happens after you open your eyes in the morning? This is the moment where nearly everyone stumbles, and it's the single point of failure that can sabotage the entire process. After successfully impressing the subconscious mind, you must do something that feels completely counterintuitive. You drop it. You let it go entirely. Neville called this entering the Sabbath, a state of rest. Once you have truly felt the reality of your wish fulfilled, any further conscious effort is counterproductive. It's like planting a seed. You prepare the soil, you plant the seed, and you trust the laws of nature to do the rest. You do not dig up the seed every hour to check on its progress. That would destroy it. The same principle applies here. Constant worry, checking for signs, and wondering when it will happen are all expressions of doubt. They are powerful assumptions in themselves. They are assumptions of lack, and they will overwrite the seed you planted. This is the most difficult part of the practice. During the day, you must go about your life with the quiet, unshakable inner conviction that it is done. When confronted with the contradictory evidence of your senses, the empty bank account, the silent phone, you ignore it. You know, it's just the shadow of an old assumption that is already fading. You maintain your mental diet, refusing to entertain thoughts and feelings that contradict your fulfilled desire. This feels abstract. Let's look at a documented case. A story of how Neville himself, broke and stranded in New York City, desperately wanted to travel home to Barbados for Christmas. What his teacher told him reveals the most challenging part of this entire system. Neville was studying in New York with an Ethiopian mystic named Abdullah. It was late in 1933, and he was consumed with a desire to spend the holidays with his family in Barbados. The problem was money. He had none. He told Abdullah about his predicament, hoping for sympathy, or perhaps a loan. Abdullah's response was blunt. "You are in Barbados," Neville protested, explaining his financial situation. Abdullah cut him off. "You are in Barbados," he repeated. He then slammed the door in Neville's face. For days, Neville struggled with this seemingly insane instruction. Finally, he gave in. He decided to run the experiment. Every night, as he lay down to sleep in his New York apartment, he assumed he was physically lying in his old family bed in Barbados. He imagined the feel of the warm, humid air. He saw the familiar furniture in the room. He heard the sound of the palm trees in the ocean through the open window. He did not visualize the boat trip or how he would get the money. He simply slept every night in Barbados. He lived from the end. He did this for several nights, fully saturating his mind with the feeling of being there. Then a letter arrived. It was from his brother Victor in Barbados. Inside was $50 and a passenger ticket for a ship sailing to Barbados in early December. Neville was ecstatic. He went to the shipping company, only to be told that while he had a ticket for a lower class, the ship was completely full. There was no room. Disappointed, he returned to Abdullah and told him the news. Abdullah became furious. He told Neville he had already left his workshop. He had failed to remain in the state of being in Barbados. He had accepted the evidence of his senses. Ashamed, Neville went home and returned to his nightly practice of sleeping in Barbados. He resumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled. On the morning the ship was due to sail, he received a call from the shipping company. A passenger had cancelled at the last minute. He could board the ship. He arrived in Barbados exactly as he had imagined. This story illustrates the bridge of incidents, the seemingly normal, logical, and sometimes surprising events that unfold to bring the assumption into reality. An unexpected check, a sudden cancellation. The subconscious mind, once impressed, will construct a pathway. But this still seems to defy logic. What psychological or neurological mechanism could possibly explain this bridge between a feeling and a physical outcome? Let's examine this through a modern psychological lens. Critics would label this confirmation bias or pure magical thinking. And from a purely materialist standpoint, they would have a point. The model only becomes coherent when viewed as a system for reprogramming your own identity and perception. At its core, the technique is a powerful method for rapidly changing your self-concept. When you consistently assume you are the person who has the successful business or the loving relationship, you begin to think, act, and carry yourself like that person. Your micro-decisions throughout the day begin to align with this new identity. You are being that person until the world catches up. This is a subtle, yet profound shift. It also directly impacts your perception. Your brain uses a filter called the reticular activating system, or RAS, to manage the overwhelming flood of sensory information. It shows you what you've tagged as important. If you buy a red car, you suddenly see red cars everywhere. The cars were always there. Your brain simply started flagging them. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are fundamentally retraining this filter. You start to notice opportunities, conversations, and resources that were previously invisible to you. Your world hasn't changed, but your ability to perceive relevant pathways within it has. The so-called bridge of incidents starts to look less like magic and more like your own finely tuned perception, guiding you through a field of infinite possibilities. You start to see the path because you've already decided you're at the destination. From this perspective, the miracle is your own neurology and psychology working in perfect alignment with a new, deeply held belief about who you are. This explains how you might act differently and notice new things. But it feels incomplete. It doesn't quite account for the sheer strangeness of some reported results, the synchronicities that seem too perfect to be mere chance. There is one final layer to Neville's model that addresses this. The psychological explanations are useful. They provide a plausible map for how internal states can influence external results through behavior and perception. But for Neville, these were descriptions of the machinery, not the force that powers it. The final layer of his model is purely metaphysical. The ultimate claim is that consciousness is fundamental. Your imagination is not just a tool for creating a more effective psychological state. It is the creative force of God itself, operating through you. When you enter a state in your imagination, you are not just pretending. You are moving into a parallel reality where that state is objectively true. Your persistence in that state makes that reality the dominant one, which then must project itself into your physical experience. You are not changing your perception of the world. You are changing the world that is being perceived. The psychological models are powerful, but they operate from the assumption that the physical world is the primary reality, and your mind is a tool for navigating it. Goddard's framework posits the reverse. Your mind, your consciousness, is the primary reality, and the physical world is the navigation tool. It is the feedback mechanism showing you what you have been conscious of being. This is a radical, unverifiable claim from a scientific standpoint. It is unfalsifiable, but Neville presented his work as a science of mind, an art to be practiced. He urged people to avoid blind belief. Instead, he framed it as an experiment to be run with your own life as the laboratory. The only proof is your own experience. The real question is what you are assuming right now, this very moment. Your current life, in every detail, is the physical evidence of your past assumptions. Every single moment is an opportunity to abandon the old conversations and to feel your way into a new reality. The ballot box is always open. It has been open this whole time. And this principle, that feeling is the secret, is precisely why traditional positive affirmations so often fall flat, a different kind of failure that operates by the exact same law.